Okay, we will now begin the Education Committee. Appreciate everyone being here today. Sorry, a few minutes running behind. Didn't have a gavel. You can't chair if you don't have a gavel, right? So had to get the gavel in here to open up. Madam Clerk, would you open up the roll call? Members, is everyone signed in? Give you a second while you sign in. Reverend Slater's carrying a bill right now, so he's not in. Anyone else need more time? Okay, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Mr. Chairman, you have 16 members present. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Members, welcome everyone. Appreciate as we go ahead and get started. And before I do start, we always like to open up our committee because we deal with what's best for our young people in a word of prayer. So would you bow your heads for a moment? Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the privilege of being here today with each other and the opportunities we have to make the right decisions for those in our state, our young people, our children. Give us your wisdom. Give us your knowledge and your understanding. Thank you for all the support and all the blessings you give to us. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Members, anyone have anybody you'd like to recognize? Yes, sir, Representative Reedy.
Twice. I am probably, Mr. Chairman, going to steal Scott Sapicki's thunder, but anyway, with this, Ms. Sheila, if you'd stand up, this is one of our past colleagues, State Representative Sheila Butts, but now she's the Murray County Mayor. So good to see you. Always good to see you. Thank you. Let's make her feel welcome.
Welcome. We do miss you up here. You know that, right? Yeah, it's good to see you again. A longtime family friend. And anyone else? While I'm going to anyone else, let me represent, we have young people with Tennessee Achieve. Thank you all for being here. As everyone knows, Tennessee Achieves does a great job as our young people go on to higher education. You know, we have the Tennessee Promise and the Tennessee Achieves, which supports them throughout the state to make sure that their higher education opportunity is successful. Is any of the leadership from Tennessee Achieves also in here? Chrissy D'Alejandro back here. Thank you for being here and everything you do for us for this. Chairman Sapicki.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Representative Reedy did steal some of my thunder, but not all of it, thankfully. I also have a constituent here. George Morales is going to be here today. I know he's been working on this piece of legislation that's before us. This is very important to him, and so hopefully we can get this across the finish line today. And then, members, I want you to be very cautious today in what you say. We have an interloper here from the Senate. We need to be very careful with what we say today because Senator Hensley is in attendance, and he'll take back all the good ideas we have to the Senate side. So welcome, Senator Hensley.
Welcome, Senator Hensley. Appreciate it. Chairman Raper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to recognize some special people from my hometown and home county. They are very intelligent. There's a CTE group from Bradley High School and Walker Valley High School. If number one, if you'd please stand. And they're led by Arlette Robinson. She is the head director of CTE in Bradley County. So please help me welcome them.
Anyone else who would like to be recognized on the committee? Seeing none. Members, we've got only one bill today, but we also have two presentations. And this will be the last committee we'll have presentations unless something special comes up that we do need to pay attention to. And so I appreciate y'all's attention after we pass our bill, after we, or hear our bill, I should say. Yeah. So with a little slip there. Representative Jones, do you just want to go ahead and get it out of the way now? So as we hear Representative Jones' bill, Also, we're here, go hear from our presentations, the State Board of Education, then Tennessee STEP. I met with them back during the summer, and it was very interesting, and so we invited them to come. So without further ado, Representative Jones, you are recognized. You got a motion in a second. You want to present the bill from,
Yes.
yeah, we're on House Bill 902, and you have an amendment that rewrites the bill, is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
And that number?
Well, goodness. 010405.
Okay, since it does rewrite the bill, we got a motion to adopt. Any objection to adopting the bill that makes the bill? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, well, would you go ahead and explain your amendment at this time?
Yes, sir. So what this bill does is it is a 3-year pilot program starting in 26-27 school year to award grants to 5 local education agencies to advance existing substance abuse and violence prevention programs aimed at helping students avoid tobacco, alcohol, and illicit drug use. It will provide a sequence of lessons addressing youth substance use and violent risk and protective factors. It is age and developmentally appropriate. It aligns with the coordinated school health guidelines, and it would basically be taught every school year, which is something that we don't have right now. It's not that is consistent and done from the third grade till 11th. And so this is something that we feel, that we know that if we start early, we can break that cycle. And we also know that if we teach with repetition, that we can break the cycle. So we have several folks here that want to address this. So at this time, I will turn it back over to you, Chairman White.
Sure. Members, what we're going to do, we do have 4 people who want to speak on this. We're going to limit our time on this bill to no more than 30 minutes because we do have 2 presentations. But I'm going to invite at this time Representative Johnson. I'm getting ready to come to you and recognize you. But while George Varales, pronounce that correctly, Chuck Cobble, Richard Garza, and Lisa Thompson, if y'all just come on and sit in the 2 tables in front of us. And what we will do in a moment is go out of session, let y'all make your presentation. If you will, take no more than 2 minutes each. And then we will come back and allow the committee to ask any questions they have. Then we'll come back in session for Representative Jones. But first of all, before we do that, Representative Johnson, you had a comment you want to make? You had your hand? A question? Oh, okay. You want to talk about it now or wait till after the presentation? Okay. Okay, without objection, we're out of session. And let's see, Mr. Morales, did I pronounce that correctly?
That's good. Yes, sir.
Okay, if each of y'all, when we come to you, just state your name again for the AV record that's we're being filmed. State that, and then you may begin.
Thank you. My name is George Varales. I'm from Murray County.
Okay, then we have over here onto your right, our left,
Hi, Rich Garza, Murray County.
Rich Garza, over here on the other two.
Hi, I'm Lisa Tipton, and I'm from Washington County.
All right.
It's Chuck Coble, Marshall County.
Okay, we will come back to you. So, Mr. Frows, would you like to lead out? Take your 2 minutes.
Sure, I'll be glad to. Well, thank you all for hearing us today. I'll just start with, our drug problem has been going on for many, many years. It was Nixon in 1971 who claimed the war on drugs, and they came with a battle plan. In 1973, they formed the DEA. And one thing that we know by our records is that what we've done in the last 55 years has not worked. Every year, our problem continues to get worse and worse. Some of you have a booklet that we have put together. This booklet came from the Tennessee Youth Survey Program that is initiated by the Tennessee Prevention Coalition. Also, the information here is from the Atlanta CDC. And so if you look through this information, you can see that Tennessee is pretty much tied with West Virginia for having the highest overdose rates in the nation. In 2022, almost 4,000 people died from drug overdose. So it's pretty alarming. I've been working with drug prevention for quite some time, at least 20 years. And one thing I have found out is that getting drug prevention in the schools is very difficult, and getting anything to stick is very difficult. And so that is why I have done a lot of research, and I found that there are some evidence-based programs that have very high success rates that start at young ages, and they work their way all the way till the child graduates or the year before. And so, when you look at the evidence and the success that they have, there's no doubt that when we educate and we educate early, it takes effect. And you guys all know the saying, train a child up in the way they should go. But they have to be trained. They have to be educated. And it's something that we need to take very seriously. Math, science, English, history, none of it matters when a child gets hooked on drugs. And right now, about 50% of kids graduating high school are trying some form of illegal substance that will alter their mind. Alcohol being one of them. Alcohol is a drug. It's one of the biggest problems we have in our nation. Now we got vaping. So I really feel the need for education. If we want to break this cycle, we have to take it very seriously. And so that's why I would recommend a drug prevention program that is mandatory and that is in the schools consistently year after year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Let's now go to Mr. Chuck Cobble.
Yes, sir. And thank you guys for allowing us to be here. And thank you, Chairman, for opening in prayer. I'm blessed to serve as the chairman of the Marshall County Recovery Foundation, where we are fighting the other side of this drug addiction epidemic. The vaping problem is what lit my initial fire to get involved in this. And just want to tell you, in Marshall County, we have instituted the full kindergarten through 11th grade drug prevention curriculum this year. We're seeing results of it already. The kids are buying in. The teachers are excited about it. We are hoping to achieve funding going forward. Just think it's a great idea and appreciate you guys listening to us.
Thank you very much. Richard Garza.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Back in the 80s, I had the privilege of playing professional football for 5 years with the Philadelphia Eagles, Denver Broncos, and 3 years in the United States Football League. And I've been using that platform for 42 years. I've spoken in 4,000 public schools, 300 or 400 penitentiaries all over America. I've been in 48 states. Still got to make Montana and North Dakota, but I don't want to go there in the wintertime. And Ms. Jones said something, 2 words, and just met her today. We didn't put it together, but repetition and consistency. And one of the things I was told in sports is it's not your intensity, it's your consistency. You got to come every day. And then we know the good book says, as a man or woman thinketh, so is he, so is she. So again, back in the early 90s, I trademarked the saying, you're not born a winner or a loser, you're born a chooser. That life's about making choices. But here's one of the other sayings I like to use with young people. And again, for 42 years, I've been using it. The kids are making bad choices because they're listening to bad voices. And it all starts in the way we think, And believe it or not, I wrote a book called Available, and I've got a few here. But believe it or not, our young people think everybody uses drugs. They think everybody uses drugs. Billions of dollars are spent on advertisement, and they use men that played in my profession lots of times to use that. But, it blows their minds, and this is all glory to God. I'm not taking any credit for it. For 43 years, I ain't had a drop. I ain't had a toke, and I had a smoke, And I tell them, I'm not a hypocrite. I'm not a phony. I'm not telling you not to use drugs, stay away from drugs, and then I'm going out tonight. I'm not a phony baloney. And I love young people. My wife and I have got four of our own. And we tell the stories. We tell the stories because I got the stories to tell. I've been on death row 6 times. And like I said, hundreds of penitentiaries. When I talk to these children, they listen. And one thing about a kid, and most of you know this, they can smell a phony like that. And they give me their utmost respect, and then they fill out a card at the end of our school presentation. And we ask them to tell us what you thought about the program. And most of the time, the number one comment is, thanks for telling me the truth. I thought everybody used drugs. And if you take one of my books, you'll see some of these comments. We got to get to them consistently. A lot of people want me to be a part of their programs. And that's one of the things, I won't be a part of anybody's program if I can't be there consistent for them. They're going to come every day. You know, my rookie year with Dick Vermeil, he kept us in training camp for 6.5 weeks. 2 practices, sometimes 3 practices a day. I didn't miss a practice. You got to come every day. My grandfather hung the steel on the Golden Gate Bridge and the Mackinac Bridge, came every day. My other grandfather made steel in Bethlehem, my hometown, Pennsylvania. They said they never remember miss a day of work. You got to come every day. It's got to be consistent. And I'm behind this program 100%. We've got to change people's way of thinking. That's where it all starts. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. I thought I recognized your name, Garza.
Reggie White, I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Oh, yeah. Miss Lisa Tipton.
Yes, thank you so much for having me today. I'm glad to get to come and speak to you a few minutes about Representative Jones' bill. And I run a nonprofit in Northeast Tennessee. We're in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd judicial districts, and we take care of adults who are involved with the justice system or are involved with Department of Children's Services. We have a residential recovery court program where we take care of men and women for a year in that program. We have almost 100 people in that now. We have another 150 people involved in our outpatient programs, then more men and women than we'd like to have in our county jails. So what we see consistently is so many of these adults have 1, 2, 3, 4 children somewhere across our region. The families that we get involved with at Families Free, involved with Department of Children's Services, same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4 kids. Some may be in foster care, some may be with grandparents, some may be with family friend, but there are children all over our region and all over this state. And one thing they have in common is the vast majority of them go to school. They go to school somewhere, and that's an opportunity for them to hear some of the things that you've heard talked about today, some of the prevention, some of the programming, some of the guidance that people can come in and give. But what I would like to offer to you is we have a moral obligation to these children. If we're going to educate them about the dangers of substance abuse, the dangers of vaping, the dangers of a lot of the preventable diseases people end up having, violence, a lot of those kind of things, we need to offer a path to the families and the people taking care of them in their community. One of the things I've been very impressed with about this particular bill is it includes that. It includes the opportunity to have a family connection, because we have got to get these families in the school. We've got to impact the people who these kids are going home to and offer communities a real place to come together around good, around positive. And people can say, yeah, that's something my family's struggling with and I need some help. And we offer an area that they can go. And what better place to pull parents, grandparents, caretakers into than our local schools. We want parents involved in schools. We want children to feel like there's a way out when they go home and talk about all the great substance abuse education that they receive. That's great. But if there's not a path out for their families, they're children. They're children. And this bill has some really good plans for what we can offer in the community, what we can come around, some resources, parenting classes, communities, groups, just a mechanism to offer a path out, not only for the children, but for the families taking care of them. So I just thank you for your time and the opportunity to share about that today.
Well, thank you very, very much. Not only appreciate y'all taking the time to be here, but also being involved in such an important work. Members, while we're out of session, anybody would like to ask a question of our guest? Representative Reedy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And it's actually, I'd just like to share, thank you to each one of you for being here. And it was interesting, last year, I was asked to visit the Child Advocacy Center in Humphreys County. And of course, part of the funding that we have available and where it comes from, Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse. Spent about an hour with these young ladies talking about broken homes due to drugs, alcohol, abuse. And here I'm trying to wrap my head around how we could help them. And the conversation went many directions, but when we finished meeting, there was a young lady that said to me, says, Representative Reedy, through the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse, if we could get our arms around the substance abuse part of that, mental health would take care of itself. And I guess a question to each of you, is that a pretty accurate statement in what she said? And I'll just open it up to any of you to speak to it.
And I'll jump in. I appreciate that comment. I'm actually on the board for the Children's Advocacy Center in our 1st Judicial District. Families Free is in the provider network for Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse. And my experience has been that's about 95% true. When we take care of the substance abuse issue, and by taking care, I mean real treatment, intensive outpatient treatment, meeting physical health needs, meeting mental health needs, housing, employment, all the things, just how you rebuild a life. When we take care of all those things, a lot of times the men and women that we engage do need some mental health care. They may need psychotropic medication, but in taking care of all of that, they go on to live lives that without that kind of help, they're just simply not going to have. So yes, for the most part, I definitely agree with that.
Follow up, Representative Reedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And so with that, in your mind's eye, or in the perfect world, yes, we got this legislation before us. Are we just scratching the itch, or give us your ideas? What from us sitting up here, what should we really be taking a hard look at? Is it this and more that we can just to build on? Tell me your thoughts.
I think it's this and more to build on. I think it's looking at licensed substance abuse and mental health providers like Families Free that are involved in the justice system, involved in Department of Children's Services, looking to the Children's Advocacy Centers, looking to the judicial system in partnership with the schools to say what exists in our community and what's lacking. So it would be bringing together the people who are already in this space, but it's going to take resources. There's going to have to be funding and resources and accountability attached to that.
Yeah, thank you for your response. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, let's go to Representative Hakeem.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here and sharing with us. Is this, I guess, an effort with so many parts? I don't know if you all work together or if it's just different areas that you work in.
Is this on?
You're recognized.
Thank you. George Vorales with Murray County. The prevention piece is what I believe is really the heart of this. There was 2 studies done, one on the tax of marijuana and one on the tax of alcohol. And the numbers came out really close to the same. And that was for every dollar collected on the taxes, $11.20 was spent on the recovery, the effects, the incarcerations, and that doesn't include the mental pain, the deaths, that goes along with this, the birth defects, everything else that goes along with this. And one thing that we have learned is that, like we've told, an ounce of prevention, a pound of cure. We will never out-tax this problem. We will never out-incarcerate. We'll never out-police it. It is all about prevention. You have to stop the problem before it starts because the power of addiction is so strong. Most people that get caught up in addiction, if they're lucky, they will get out of it, but it takes years. A lot of drug facilities won't even take some of these hardcore addictions because they can't cure them. They can't fix the problem. Meth is one of them. But the point here is prevention, is keeping the child from making good decisions. And if you look at some of the programs that are out, and my favorite one that always rises to the top is the Botvin Life Skills Training. And the Botvin Life Skills Training also teaches on abuse, making good choices. It's life skills. So it's not just drug prevention that we need, it's also life skills training that we need. And some of these programs offer it together. And I can share numbers. I mean, whatever else you want me to share about it. I just want to answer your question correctly.
You have a follow-up?
Yes, sir. I believe it was a gentleman on the end spoke earlier about, I guess, young people, some of the young people you talk with, I apologize if I got the wrong one, thought that everyone used drugs. And you know, I can see that in discussions I've had with some young people. And I'm asking, do you see one of the cures to that of early intervention and working with people, young people along the way?
Well, Rich was the one that did the in-school speaking, and so I'll let Rich speak on that too. But, you know, with education, if they're not taught any better, then they don't know any better. And if they don't get their information from education or from responsible adults, they're going to get it from the streets. And, you know, that saying, you know, everyone's doing it. And so I think there's a lot of truth to our society thinks with all the commercials out there that everyone drinks, that everyone vapes, that, you know, and it's getting worse. It's getting worse. Now we got hard liquor. So I only see the answer as prevention. You have to educate, and it has to be really good prevention. If we're going to fight this battle, then we have got to fight it with the best possible tools that we have. And there's programs out there that have already done their work. They're evidence-based. They've been around for 40 years. They work. And so we just have to apply them.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go to Representative Glenn, and then we'll go back in session after Representative Glenn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here. Just one quick question. I think you mentioned something about, you say that what we were doing before is not working, and now here's a new approach. What were some of them things that we were doing that were not working?
Sure.
And what is this going to do that's so different?
Sure.
That's going to change it?
Absolutely. So if you look back over the years, Ronald Reagan came up with, or Nancy Reagan, she spearheaded the Just Say No for Drugs. There's been other programs such as DARE. Now we've got LEAD in the programs, but it's too little. It's not enough. We're talking about a chronic problem. One of the worst cases of crime in this country comes from drug abuse, and it's all across the board. And we have to start early, and we have to start often. And nothing has ever done that. We've had DARE in the 5th grade, and that's pretty much it. And it's been hit or miss. And so we really need a very good drug prevention. Early intervention is key, and it has to be consistent.
You have follow-up?
Yeah,
Go
yes.
ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And that's the basis of the question. You had DARE, you had other programs, and you say they haven't worked.
Correct.
What makes this one more effective? So I'm assuming
Yes, sir.
we've thrown money in DARE, we've thrown money in other programs, and they haven't worked. What is so different with this one that is going to make this one work? And this will be the coup d'etat to end it all, right? So that's the question.
Yes, sir. So there's not going to be any end of it all. I mean, I wish there was, but the reductions could come around 70%. And so what's make this one different is that it starts early. It's consistent year after year after year until they graduate. DARE was only 5th grade, and it was only a very short time.
Thank you. Okay, thank you all so very much for being here. Appreciate you giving up your time. So without objection, we're back in session. We're back on House Bill 902. I'm going to recognize, got a few people want to ask. Representative Johnson, are now back on the bill. And y'all may be seated. Thank you so very much. Representative Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess I have a big concern here, and it was last year that we put about 4 to 5 different things we added to the curriculum for teachers to teach or for someone to teach, but we didn't take away a single standard. And so I know that today in a classroom, it is a massive struggle for teachers to get what they already have to get in by law in throughout the day. And to add this, that's one more thing that we are adding. We just started. I've seen other things come through committee this year again already. And there's not time in the school day for this. And that is my concern, because teachers are saying, when the heck are we going to get this in? Drugs, it's definitely a problem. And it's certainly something to think about. However, adding something as massive as this is to a curriculum when we're not taking a single standard away is not being fair to our schools, to what they're required by law to get in. My other concern is what I have seen work in other states is a more whole child approach when you go into investing in community centers. So kids have something to do when they are outside of the school. And, you just see something as basic as sidewalks. Investing in sidewalks has shown less drug use, just because getting kids active, they're connected to other communities. These are the type of things that research have demonstrated work, giving kids something to do outside of their school time where they are engaged in community and supervised in game and physical activity. So there are a lot of ways we can go and also making sure everyone has access to health care. Tennessee kids, because they have to update their TennCare every year, they often get dropped because they move and don't get the updates and all these kinds of things that are happening that keep them from having the health care they need. We know that when people have access to affordable health care, they are less likely to become addicted to drugs as well. So it's interesting that the states that have higher addiction also are low wage earning states. Tennessee is one of the top states in earning a low wage. If we invest in our community and invest in our people, they're less likely to try to self-medicate and these types of things. So until we solve the problem of how are teachers going to fit this in, I don't think that we should add this extra burden when we haven't seen results from other places that have used this. We've got some word of mouth here that, people like the speakers, but the reality is until you see data on numbers that have changed, this is not the research that I'm seeing nationwide in states that are doing better than us.
Thank you.
Can the sponsor answer to what, have teachers been polled on this? Do they feel like that they can take this type of classroom, this time away from them in every single grade level?
Representative Jones, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Representative Johnson, teachers have been talked to, and they recognize the problem that they have in their schools, and they want to do something different. And to your question about where has it been done, Utah adopted this in 2022 as a statewide mandate. We are just trying to see if we can get it in 5 LEAs and see if it does work in Tennessee. They are showing 87% cuts in tobacco, 60% cuts in alcohol, 75% cut in marijuana usage, 68% cuts in methamphetamine, 66% cut in polydrugs. And so there's evidence out there that this does work.
Did you have a follow-up, Representative Johnson?
I just want to ask her if she could send us that data.
Absolutely. It's from the Utah Board of Education. I'll be happy to.
Thank you.
Okay, we got 5 more who want to speak on this, and then we will make sure we have time for presentations. We're going to go to Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And my question is it's a basic one. So how many hours or minutes a week will this instruction come from? And when one of the presenters said it's a whole family. I don't know how that's going to be done. So what is this? Is this an after school program? If it's a during school program, how many hours a week is it going to be taught within the school? Are the parents going to be there for all a part of it? And then where is that instruction time coming from?
Representative Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative McKenzie, so what this plan is, there'll be a lot of discretion up to the LEA. But for instance, in third grade, the program would be an 8-week program that could be divided and would be taught in the counseling or the school coordinated health, wherever that actually ends up fitting best. And it would be taught that they could teach it, every day, but as long as they get the period of time for that unit would depend upon the age appropriateness of the grade that is being taught in. So as you get up into the high school level, it would be 15 to 20 weeks. And it would be, again, in the counseling or school coordinated health. And as far as the family component goes, we are the department will be selecting LEAs that have something like Families Free. That would be an eligibility piece of to be in the grant that has something like CAC or Families Free or something like that, where they can come into the school and once a month provide a parent engagement activity to really bring about a holistic approach. So as someone was speaking earlier about treat the whole child, it's not the best case scenario, but it's an attempt at getting to treat the whole child.
Okay, one short follow-up, then I'll move on. Go ahead. Representative.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And that is, I guess my concern is just our, academic day in our schools. We have folks from recess wanting to increase time. Well, we increased the time on last year. School has said we can't fit it in. We can't get this in and do the instruction that's necessary. So we're having those conversations, and now we're talking about another add-on. So this is just making it extremely difficult for our public school teachers, not our private school teachers. This is just another mandate that concerns me. And I say that it's extremely important, but academics is as well. So that balance is what concerns me. So thank you.
Thank you. Go to Chairman Sapicki.
Move previous question.
Okay, the previous question has been called. Any objection to the previous question? Seeing none. Ready for the vote? Madam Clerk, would you put the vote on the board? Everyone voted? Madam Clerk, call the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 16 ayes, 1 nay, and 1 present not voting.
Thank you very much. Members, House Bills 902 moves on to finance. Thank you. Thank you, our guests, for being here on that, and thank you, Representative Jones, for the time. Okay, members, let's now, we've got 2 great presentations, and we'll work those in. State Board of Education, Dr. Sarah Morrison, if you'll bring your team up. And we will, as soon as you get seated. Thank you all for being here to present to us today. Always a lot going on at the State Board. And Mr. Cobbins, how you doing? Good to see you. Without objection, we're out of session. Dr. Morrison, you're recognized.
Okay. Am I on? Thank you, Chairman. Good to see all of you, members of the committee. We appreciate the time in a very busy period of your session to talk a little bit about the accountability hearings this morning. I'm thrilled to have 3 of our board members with us, our board chair, Bob Eby, our vice chair, Gerald Cobbins, and one of our members, Ina Maxwell. We can do some quick introductions, and then our vice chair, Cobbins, is going to lead us through the bulk of our very quick presentation. We want to make sure we have plenty of time for your questions. Mr. Cobbins.
Daryl Cobbins, Vice Chair, State Board of Education, representing the 9th Congressional District.
Bob Eby, Chair of the State Board of Education, representing the 3rd Congressional District.
Apologies, I don't think I said. Sarah Morrison, I'm our Executive Director of the State Board of Education.
You good?
I'm Nathan James with the State Board staff. Thank you.
Ina Maxwell, 6th Congressional District, State Board of Education.
Allie Reed, Chief of Strategy for the State Board of Education.
Who's going to lead us out?
I will. So first off, I want to say thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members, for giving us this time today to share with you details around a process that has been several years in the making. After receiving the duty and responsibility for establishing accountability hearings for school districts across the state, State Board staff has spent a good amount of that 3 years, 2.5 years, in conversation and deliberation with school district leaders, school advocacy groups, organizations like TOSS and others, to make sure that we had as much input as possible from stakeholders as it relates to this process, and then also to make sure that we were putting together a process that, even though this is a maiden voyage, it's a process that we will continue to revisit and refine as we go forward to make sure that public transparency and accountability for what our students are learning and how our schools are performing are receiving the urgent attention that they need from all levels. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. James.
Thank you, sir. So our statutory charge, by the way, is to conduct as a whole board or as a committee of members appointed for the purpose, accountability hearings for the districts of schools that have a D or an F letter grade. And for the record, by the way, that statutory language was added to TISA by this very committee. We're also charged with promulgating rules regarding the hearing process and the eligibility requirements. And as a reminder, these rules focus on the LEAs themselves. That which gets into, by the way, the legislative intent that is reflected in this law, and that is to provide a means of public accountability in light of the sustained budgetary expansion of K through 12 education funding, both from the executive branch and from the legislative branch over the years. Also, to give an opportunity to consider the many inputs, including spending decisions that impact student outcomes, to provide the opportunity to discuss what's working and what's not working in a public forum, and to give an opportunity for similarly situated districts across the state to link up and figure out what can bring schools from the bottom closer to the top. This process allows for reflection and collaboration in determining next steps to improve outcomes for the students, which is the main focus of the work. Back to Daryl.
Mr. Coppins, you're recognized.
Okay. At our November board meeting of the state board, 3 board members were appointed to serve as the panel and hearing committee members. Myself, I will serve as the chair of the hearing committee. Chair Bob Eby, who is a longtime member of the Oak Ridge Board of Education, will also serve on the committee. And Dr. Ina Maxwell, who is a 33-year educator, former director of schools in Cumberland County, will also serve on that committee. Any board member of the 9 are able to attend those meetings and able to vote on any of the recommendations or corrective action, but the 3 of us will be those that will be administering that particular process.
I'm realizing we're keeping you up busy back there popping around, but just as Mr. Coppin said, we've spent a lot of time really having conversations across the state. School improvement is not an area that the state board has spent much time historically. So this has been an important on-ramp for our staff and for our members to really spend time understanding, what this work has looked like, what has worked, what has not worked, and to try to use this opportunity to have important conversations that help point in the right direction for students in our state. And so you'll see here, if you're interested in reading some of the detail, after a lot of that work and engagement with national partners as well as partners across our state, we passed a rule that was finalized in November at our quarterly board meeting, and a policy that's related to that codifies and explains a little bit more of the detail of this process. Those both received positive recommendations from the Joint Government Operations Review at the end of last year as well.
Thank you. Within the rule, it does explain the eligibility criteria. So thinking about what was in law in terms of what the state board may do, we further defined that for an LEA, if an LEA has at least one school that over the last 2 consecutive school years received an F over the 2 years, so 2 Fs, 2 consecutive F letter grades, or had one school that earned a D and then the following year dropped to an F, they are eligible or they are called for a hearing. And additionally, the eligibility criteria also names that an LEA will not be called back for another hearing for at least 2 years or for 2 years following their previous hearing. And that is to allow time for them to implement their corrective action that's issued by the board and to see some outcomes, to make adjustments before they're called back for a hearing. So that is all built into the eligibility criteria. The next slide also defines for our charter schools. It looks exactly the same if in the last 2 years of letter grades, the charter school had a D and dropped to an F or had 2 consecutive Fs, they are also called for a hearing, and they have that same provision that exempts them from a hearing for the next 2 years so that they can implement their corrective action as well. This next slide gives you a sense of the hearing schedule, which I believe we have hard copies for you as well. And the hearings will take place the week of March 23rd. So you can see all the different LEAs that we have, as well as charter schools that are attending or called for these hearings this year as a result of their 23-24 and 24-25 letter grade outcomes. In total, we are holding 18 hearings. They'll range from between 60 and 75 minutes each. And within that mix, there are 15 LEAs, 3 charter schools, and 4 LEAs who are called purely on behalf of a virtual school in which we will have conversations with.
All right. The hearing location will be the same location where the State Board of Education meets in the Davy Crockett Tower. These meetings will be in person and will be open to the public. The public will have the option to attend in person or to watch online in real time. In addition, public comment will be taken in person or in writing with a dedicated email address with the subject line accountability hearing public comment. And so our efforts there is to make sure that public transparency, public access, and accountability are at the forefront of this process, and that anyone who wants to attend or have their voices heard have that opportunity. In addition to that, in our rule, we have required attendees from each LEA, the first being the director of schools, the second being the school board chair. Next is the chief of academics or their equivalent, and then finally the chief of finance or their equivalent. And the goal there is to make sure that those who set the strategy, set the direction, allocate the resources that come from the state are the ones answering the questions and providing input to the board, to the hearing committee members to ensure that we can make the best recommendation possible with the best information possible from those who are in the highest levels of leadership within each LEA. Similarly with charters, the charter school's executive director or their equivalent, the charter school's governing board chair, the charter school's chief of academics, their chief of finance, the authorizer's directors of schools, the authorizer's board chair, the authorizer's director of charter schools, and the authorizer's chief of finance, again, in keeping with that same spirit of ultimate accountability.
Following the hearing, the three members of the committee will get together immediately after that one hearing and decide whether to recommend a corrective action plan be developed and presented to the Department of Education. And then if there's a second hearing, to recommend an audit and to investigate the effectiveness of the academic programming and the financial, how the money is being spent. Just to put it in perspective, this year, if we had had the hearings this year, we would have had 33 districts represented of having 2 Fs or a D to an F. Coming forward in March, that number is reduced down to 18. So I think it shows that things are moving in the right direction, but we're not there yet.
Our last slide, as I mentioned before, we have tried to take this unusual long on-ramp into the hearings to really educate ourselves as a staff, as a board. We've done a lot of intentional learning in the form of workshop presentations when we come together as a board, hearing from districts who are doing this work and seeing success, talking with district leaders, talking with educators, talking with legislators like yourselves. We've been to conferences. There's another conference that Daryl and Allie are going to attend later this month before the hearings start in Houston. Just trying to make sure that we have as much information at the ready and understanding deeply of what school improvement looks like when it works well. And I want to make sure to note too, we've been in really close collaboration with our partners at the Department of Education. They are the agency in K-12 that spends a lot more time working in the school improvement space, and they've been excellent partners helping to make sure that the work that we're doing here is integrating into the school improvement planning process that they oversee and not duplicating. We've wanted to be very mindful of our districts and, again, the limited time that they have for many things that are important to kids, but not wanting to duplicate their efforts in terms of information collection. We did a committee training back in January before the ice storm, where we did sort of some mock hearings where we simulated some data and really just put our members in the seats where they will be later in March to think about the kinds of questions and the interactions that they'll have with our district leaders. And then we're doing a lot of document review right now. We've got the pre-hearing forms, the data files, a lot of information that our staff and our board members are looking into. It is not a light lift. It's going to take a lot of time. We think it's important to put that time in and to do this well. But as Mr. Cobham said, it is sort of a maiden voyage. I think we'll learn a lot and we'll be prepared to come back to this committee and others in the legislature and report back on this first year of hearings. I don't want to stop, though, without giving Dr. Maxwell a chance to reflect on her experience, and then happy to take any questions that you have.
So as Sarah mentioned, we have had continuous training. In my time, the past 2 years, the staff has brought forward information pertaining to these accountability hearings. And many of you will remember back in 2016 when letter grade designations were first adopted by the state. So, you know, in essence, this has been something that's been in some aspects slow moving. And then, of course, testing issues and pandemic issues, you know, kind of slowed the train down, but now it's on track. And we've tried to be very diligent with using the resources available, and the SBE staff has provided us with tremendous training opportunities. And so, you know, we just look forward to doing something that we all can agree on. We want our students to be successful.
Thank you very much. Members, anyone have a question? Let's go to Chairman Haston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple of quick points, and then I'll throw a question out there. If you go to the department website, one of the first things that pops up about the letter grades, it says providing a snapshot of how your school is performing. And granted, what I'm getting ready to say here, this is what we've given you guys. This is no judgment of anything, but we really need to take a look at that statement, because achievement is 50%, and the achievement comes from our EOC scores. Primarily, we're just talking about the high school level, the TCAP at the high school, and of course testing, EOCs. And most of those tests, if I'm not mistaken, take place before your junior year in high school. So a lot of this achievement is based on freshman and sophomore data. Does not include ACT scores, a part of that achievement. It does not include ACT work key scores. And I think some of the disconnect we have in some of the grade level, the grades that some of our, especially our rural areas that have really great CTE programs, that data is not getting treated the same as other students. And I think that that's something that we've got to look at the legislature and have a little bit more of a balanced attack of being able to, because if you go back, a snapshot of how your school is performing Well, I have schools that have incredible CTE programs that have platinum and gold ACT work keys, and all that is a check mark in the CCR box, college career readiness, for 10%. And I think that we really need to look at pretty soon about getting these students that are performing great in CTE programs on the same elevated plateau as somebody that's doing great in the EOCs in their freshman and sophomore years, if we're really going to provide a snapshot of how our schools are performing. And so I just wanted to keep that in mind. It was a hot topic during the innovation committees. And I think it's something that we really need to consider with some legislation that's coming forward this year to give you guys something better, I think, to work with down the line in the future. But I would, like, just keep that in mind. If anybody has any comments, that's fine. But I just think that we're doing a disservice to a lot of students and a lot of school systems by not putting that on the equal level playing field as these EOCs are in freshman and sophomore years predominantly. Thank you.
And thank you, Chairman. Any response at this point? Okay. Let's go to Representative Kinsey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Along those same lines, but definitely a different aspect is one of the things that concerns me is you say if one school has a F or D, they go on the list. That to me, just from a numbers standpoint, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Knox County has 94 schools, one with an F. To pick on areas and places in my area, Oak Ridge City has 7? Clinton City has 4. Blount County, maybe, dozen. One school out of 3, okay, yes. One school out of 94 being at that same level. Same treatment. It's like everything's a nail. And so that's not the way I think we should deal with our education and our evaluation. Now, again, as Chairman said, it may be on us as a legislator that's driving that, but I think we can take some information back from you all, some suggestions back on how we can improve that, because that just doesn't make any sense to me. One school out of 94 driving a district, and I know they may have some D's, but I'm just picking on the F. One school out of 94 with an F, and 1 out of 7 that may have an F theoretically, and saying that those school systems deserve the same kind of enhancements, I would say.
Dr. Morrison.
Yes, thank you for the question. Just to clarify a couple of things, we had discretion in the current legislation to determine the eligibility criteria that Ms. Reed talked about. And so it is an F 2 years in a row. However, I also want to make sure you understand too that these are public conversations. It's going to be a really important and hopefully insightful conversation. But what comes out of this is not necessarily anything punitive. They may have to have a corrective action. There may be an audit that's later down the road at year 3. But our hope is that at minimum, it's really just, even if it's a large district and they have one school that's been F 2 years in a row, for the families and the students in that school, it's important to understand what's driving that. And so to Representative Hastings' point, one of the things that our committee is really going to try to hone in on is what's driving that F. Is it achievement? Is it growth? Usually a combination is what we're seeing, but trying to understand what is the root issue, because for those kids in 3rd grade, again, we say this all the time, but they get one chance at 3rd grade. And so to have a public conversation to shine the light, and hopefully districts come and they have a plan and they are working on it and they are seeing progress, and that's what we want to hear. But I did want to make sure, it is F 2 years in a row, and really it is about a public conversation. What happens after our conversation is going to be determined by the Department of Education.
Follow up.
Yes, and I'll definitely allow Bob to chime in. I think he won't have something to say. But I'll still say 1 out of 94, 2 years in a row, does not spoil the whole 93. That's my concern. I'm saying, absolutely, that one has to have some intervention. We're definitely going to have some interventions, especially if you're out there on the island like that. You're going to get in that one school, and I'm picking on Knox County. That one school is going. It's in my district. It's going to get some interventions, regardless of what you all do. So that to me. But again, throwing everybody into the wash. It's like everybody gets cough medicine because there's a child that may have a sickness. So that's my biggest concern. And then the other piece is, correct me if I'm wrong, I think on down the line, the department can take punitive measures from that within this piece. So again, I just want to make sure that you guys take a look at that. Is all I'm saying. Evaluate that.
Okay. Yeah. So I defer to my chair.
I understand what you're saying, Representative McKenzie. I'll just say this, is if one school is failing, that's one too many. We don't want any schools to fail. And what I would be asking that district is, okay, you've got 93 other schools here that are succeeding. What are you doing differently in those 93 schools versus that one school? And what can we do to lift that one school up?
Just last follow-up, but you know, you can always paint things that way. You're right. Every child is important, every student. That's not what I'm saying. Okay, so you know, I don't want this narrative to get flipped. I want every child to do well, period. But systems, statistical systems, 93, 1 out of 93 is not the same as 1 out of 7. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so again, I'm not disparaging the saying we throw away the one, but I'm saying systems wise, let's make sure we're doing the right thing with our LEAs and our systems. Thank you.
And just
Thank you. Dr. Morrison.
really briefly, I appreciate that. And as I mentioned, we will be coming to you with feedback after this first year. I mean, we have certainly talked about a percentage versus the number, but right now, this is what we're going to try, but we'll come back. I mean, I think in the case of Knox County, we'll hear some really interesting things from Director Ricewick about what they're doing. And so I look forward to that conversation. I hope one of the things that comes out of these hearings is you see districts who are making inroads with a failing school and are able to share those insights with other districts. Like it'll start, I hope, a public conversation across districts that will help us all start to learn about what it takes to do this well in schools that are failing. But I appreciate the point, and I assure you we will come back with feedback after this first round of hearings.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to Chairman Sapicki, and then we will wrap it up and go to our next presentation. Chairman Sapicki.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And being here when this legislation was crafted, the intent was to identify a school that was having trouble. And I think what you've laid out perfectly to us is the plan on how you're going to address with a district, a school that is not performing up to the specifications that we deem it should be, and work with that district to come up with a corrective action plan. I think the issue is, it isn't 1 of 7 or 1 of 93. It's the issue is 1. Why 1? And the way school boards function, those parents really don't have a choice of what school they go to because they're zoned into a school. And so we have to be careful of saying, well, because you're zoned into that school, sorry about that, the other 93 are doing well. And if you're a parent of one of those children that are in that failing school, you're going to be their voice on helping take corrective action to turn that school around. And so I know you're going to have a very difficult task. I know there's going to be districts that are going to come up before you, and they're going to say, it's just one school. But you have to be the voice of those children that are in that school to get the corrective action in place so that we can get that school off the list. So maybe one year you come to us and say, by the way, there's nobody coming before us. That's the goal, is to make it so there's not one school in Tennessee that has to come before you because everybody's performing at the level we all expect. So thank you for what you're doing. I know you have the support of the General Assembly because we passed this bill, and we want you to take action and work with these districts to get things turned around. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Representative Johnson, I'm going to let you have the last word since you had your hand up 30 seconds before we go on to Tennessee's step. You're recognized.
Thank you. I'll be quick. Yeah, I'm just wondering if you have any statistics. This may not be, but I'm very curious. Typically, whenever I've seen schools that were struggling, I hate to say failing schools. I don't believe schools are failing. I believe we are failing our communities. However, have you ever had these failing schools in affluent or upper middle class neighborhood? Because what I see typically is families that have fewer resources struggle, so those schools struggle, and that if we put wraparound services in those schools and provide the things that kids need in order to be successful, like access to health appointments or mental health or smaller classroom sizes in those struggling classrooms. But can you tell me if we ever had a quote failing school in a affluent or upper middle class neighborhood?
Dr. Morrison.
Yes, I appreciate the question. I'm happy to look into that and see in the history of our letter grades if that has occurred and get that to you. What I can tell you is there's a strong correlation to economic disadvantage. And also we have some virtual schools that are coming, and that's a mixed population of students, and that's kind of a unique situation. So we will look into that though and let you know if there is a data point to which you speak. Otherwise, like I said, I know there's a strong correlation. And so we'll be interested. And again, this is under the TISA legislation. So part of what we're trying to understand is the resource allocation. These schools are generating more money than they did under BEP. And so we want to understand what are the best practices? How are you using those additional dollars to really serve these these children and these families well. So I hope that we'll learn a lot to come back and report to you all, but we'll appreciate you taking time today to talk with us on the front end of all this.
Thank you, Dr. Morrison. Thank y'all and the entire team for being here today. Appreciate, we put a lot of accountability and standard bearing on the state board. So anytime you have any issues that concern y'all, please bring that to us. And thank you for everything y'all do. Okay, members, we got one last presentation which you can find interesting. Ms. Bernadette Gray with Tennessee STEP, if you would come up, or anyone else with you. And we'll spend the last few minutes for a committee. I met with Tennessee STEP back during the summer, found it very interesting what they're doing. And they asked to come up and share that with the committee to make us familiar. And with that objection, Ms. Gray, I'm going to let you lead out. And then for anyone speaks, just state your name for the record. Ms. Gray, you're recognized.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Chairman White and the committee. We are starting with my colleague here. I'm Bernadette Gray. Apologize for that, Shelby County, Tennessee. And my colleague is going to kick us off.
You're recognized.
Thank you for having us today. My name is Stephanie Willis, and I am Deputy Director at TN STEP. TN STEP is a statewide nonprofit and Tennessee's federally designated parent training and information center under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. And we have proudly served families statewide for 36 years. I'm sure you all are familiar with IDEA, but as a brief refresher, this federal law guarantees children with qualifying disabilities or special health care needs the right to a free, appropriate public education, or FAPE, tailored to meet their individual needs, and it also provides legal protections for their families. IDEA funds a range of critical services, including early childhood programs, K-12 special education services, technical assistance and continuing education for educators, and programs like parent training and information centers like TN STEP, which help states improve special education outcomes. At TN STEP, we support families by helping parents understand their rights and responsibilities under the IDEA and equipping them with the skills to confidently participate in their child's educational planning meetings, which often leads to less conflict when all team members are knowledgeable and prepared. Because federal and state law require parents to participate in these planning meetings, our work ensures families are informed, empowered, and fully equipped to engage meaningfully in their child's education. We're grateful for the opportunity to briefly share the impact of our services and data that demonstrates the critical role we provide to families of children and youth with disabilities across Tennessee. At this time, I would like to introduce our Executive Director, Karen Harrison.
You're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Karen Harrison, and I'm from Greene County, Tennessee. I was first introduced to TN STEP 33 years ago when my daughter was in early intervention services, and I was trying to navigate special education and opportunities for her. She has a very rare chromosome disorder that led to a lot of medical issues and intellectual and developmental disabilities. And they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. So there's 4,000 words over there for you. And on the far left picture, that is an early intervention provider that told me about a TN STEP workshop when Sarah was 2.5 years old. And I went to that training that day and got some individualized support about IDEA, about my rights and my role as a parent in this process, and how I could work together with the school team so that she could have the best possible outcome. And TN STEP is not just a one-stop shop where you go to a workshop, but we're there for the entire school career of a family. And so for months and years after that, I accessed TN STEP services, and it was an invaluable resource as I learned to have confidence in my rights and in my role as a parent. So a shout out to Greene County Schools for their partnership in helping with so many students, but particularly in Sarah's case, with a very complex situation and medical needs. And Sarah's now 35 years old, and she is living her best life. She is a contributing, happy member of her community, and that is attributable to the fact that I learned my rights and was able to navigate this complex system. So these are just pictures of her at different points in her career where she was included with her typical peers, learning alongside them. And I have had the privilege to lead TN STEP now as their executive director for 16 years. I think because I hung around so much and kept asking so many questions, they wanted to offer me a job. But our focus is simple but mighty. We believe that parents know their child best, and given information, they can make informed decisions along with school teams to help their children succeed. And when students with disabilities succeed in the classroom, teachers succeed and districts succeed, and there are better outcomes. Today, there are more than 195,000 families who are accessing special education and early intervention services across our state. And parents with disabilities rarely come to the knowledge of their child's disability and understanding special education rights before they're asked to be part of a team that's using jargon, and decisions are being made based on terms that they may not understand. So learning about how to talk about their child's needs with the school team, how the system works, and how to access services can be very daunting. And that is where TN steps in and can make a difference in that learning curve for families when we can reach them. My personal goal for 30 years has been to reach families of children with disabilities early with information and training so they do not have to walk this journey alone. This is only made possible by informing you as legislators about TN STEP's essential role in special education, expanding partnerships across the state, and working together to ensure that parent training and information in Tennessee is a priority. And at this time, I'd like to turn this comments over to Bernadette Gray, who is a parent who has accessed our services, but also worked in the corporate world of quality improvement and data. So she's going to share some of our data and outcomes with you as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen. And again, I'm Bernadette Gray. I'm the mother of an almost 21-year-old daughter on the autism spectrum. And I was introduced to TN STEP at 2.5, and they have been walking with me ever since. I'm retired managing director from FedEx, and Mr. Fred Smith used to say, the information about the package is just as important as the package. And we deal in information, that is our currency. And I want to just share a little bit about the landscape in which we operate. So starting first with looking at how many students in the public school systems, K through 12, are getting special needs services. And this data is from the Sycamore Institute. And so we looked at over the 5-year grant period that we've been working, an 18% increase in students who are needing special education services. So there is definitely a need there for the state of Tennessee, but we're proud to say that as a statewide agency, we are covering the state. We have, over the course of 5 years, touched 93 out of 95 counties with at least one family. 93 out of 95. So we understand the need, and we're trying to address it. This particular data point, 475,000. Again, I said information is our currency. So that is almost 500,000 opportunities where we have put information in the hands of parents so that they can know how to represent their children to try and get the best education for their kids. One of the other trends that's increasing is that the need for one-on-one support. So I mentioned I've been walking with STEP. In addition to being a parent receiving the information, I had a chance to work as a staff member giving the information. And I'm also a former board chairman, so I've been monitoring too what they do. I'm like Karen, I have not stepped away because they have been so instrumental to me. And I know the value of sitting down with a person and they hear you and they're trying to understand what is your issue and trying to help you figure out what is the best pathway in order to get the results. And so we see the need for one-on-one assistance increasing. That's a very time intensive, but a very needed service that we provide, and that is so valuable for families. And because families are able to share how well we help them, they recognize that we are a representative for them, and others are beginning to do that too. And so when we look at the number of state, local, and national meetings that we attend, that's on the rise because people see that we are the conduit to the parents. We give voice to the parents, and they're wanting to make sure that they're hearing us so that we can impact the policies, the procedures, the systems that were just discussed to make sure that their children's needs are being addressed. And we also are very proud of the fact that we have intentionally tried to connect with other agencies, just as we're doing here today, to make them aware of what we do, why we do it, and the results that we get. And so there are more than 300 state agencies, medical groups, organizations who are referring families to us because we are able to hear and to help those families navigate the educational system. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to the quintessential advocate, Ms. Carol Westlake.
Hi. Thank you, Chairman White, and thank you, committee, for listening to us today. I'm Carol Westlake. I actually work with the Tennessee Disability Coalition, but I have had the privilege of being sort of parallel to STEP since the very beginning of the Parent Training and Information Center here in Tennessee. And so I'm its biggest cheerleader. And I really just am glad to be here today to share a little bit about why parent training and information is so important and what makes TN STEP really, really unique. I mean, I think it's an organization that's flown under the radar, except in the parent community, for years and years and years. And we really talk a lot these days about parent involvement in education, right? Making sure that parents have the information they need to make good school choices for students with and without disabilities. But it's absolutely critical for parents of kids with disabilities to get the training and information they need. Tennessee has many strong organizations and state programs that support the disability community. I work with the Tennessee Disability Coalition. We're an alliance of more than 40 organizations, and I can tell you that we refer to STEP because TN STEP is the sole organization that is really focused just on special education and on training parents. And one of the reasons that parent training and information centers were written into the original federal law around special education is because a lot of personnel preparation is written into the law. I started out as a special education teacher. And one of the first things I learned when I started working with families is that everybody at the table was paid to be there and had training to be there, except for families, except for parents, right? And so it's really, really important that parents have opportunities to learn how the system works, how to best serve their child, the way we train teachers, the way we train therapists, the way we make sure that everybody understands and that is there. So really, being an effective participant, it requires training, requires information. Becoming a parent of a child with a disability is generally a club that nobody asks to join, right? And you are introduced to healthcare systems, education systems, a whole variety of social systems that you didn't ask to be a part of. And learning how to do that requires training, requires information, it requires organizations like TN STEP. And so, I would say the proof is in the pudding. Disability organizations around the state really refer to STEP, and we really count on them to provide that accurate information to families. I have often described TN STEP as sort of the last call for parents. Oftentimes, by the time they get to my organization or other organizations, they are exhausted. They are overwhelmed. They're frustrated because they're trying to understand how to best help their child, right? And they have trouble navigating the complex systems that are required when you have a child with a disability or a special healthcare need. And so in our communities, we're always looking for ways to increase staff, to increase services and to be able to increase TN STEP's reach, because that's really makes it better for all parents of kids with special healthcare needs and disabilities. And we would like TN STEP in our community to become the first call so that parents know where to go. And so part of why we're here today is to really move TN STEP above the radar, to let you know that it's there, to help you understand how important it is that parents of kids with special health care needs and disabilities who are served in special education have the tools they need to be the very best advocates they can be for their children. Thank you.
Thank y'all. You provide such a critical service for our families and states, so thank you. Anyone have anything to say? If not, we'll go to Representative Johnson. Would you like to comment before I go to Representative Johnson?
I just wanted to, if you don't mind, thank you, sir. I just want to relay that our plan is to continue to meet with legislators individually, if we can, to highlight the unique and valuable role that TN STEP has in the Tennessee education landscape, and just share the possibilities and to discuss that with you all related to continuing to build partnerships, discuss funding for essential work and informing this space of educating parents of children with disabilities. And we do appreciate this time and are happy to answer any questions, provide further information.
Thank you so very much. Representative Johnson, we are about in the clock. We're going to go to you for any comment, question.
Yeah, I'll be quick. Thank you. One thing I want to say, just as a special education teacher who had to be in a room a lot of times when a lot of times a parent doesn't know their child has a disability, and we've got to sit there and tell them. And that's one of the hardest meetings you'll ever be in. And the parents hear a lot of alphabet soup when it comes to handicapping conditions or programs, and just helping when they are informed and they understand how to do that. They come in to a meeting with a bunch of practitioners and they feel ignorant. They are not ignorant. They just don't know everything. And so you guys, it just makes all the difference in the world in helping that parent advocate for the best thing. But one of the things I'm curious about is what I'm hearing in my district is that a lot of services are being lost, certainly for adults because of the cuts to Medicare, which is, TennCare in Tennessee. A lot of the adult services for handicapped people are losing their placements in some of the autism homes and things like that in Knoxville. I'm wondering if there are any cuts in K-12 to any of the programming that for folks with disabilities because of the bill.
You recognize who would like to take that?
Yes. Do you want to? Go ahead, Karen.
Yeah. Nothing directly, but I think one of the important things to remember is that school systems are often able to use kids' Medicaid funding, their TennCare, to pay for services that otherwise the school system would have to pay for. That's right. And so it's a complex system of funding and how that works. But those cuts to healthcare funding may very well snowball into cuts in educational services as well.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think it's so important that we're not really thinking about that. And we're seeing it with the adults. You're 19, you're getting cut. And I think it's absolutely going to affect that K-12 area as well. We just don't know how yet. So thank you all so much for your work.
Thank you. Representative Hakeem is 1:28. You wrap us up.
All right, sir. Well, firstly, thank you all so very much. I want to ask, is there a percentage that we know of undiagnosed need of those students? And are there a number of students who, because of trauma in their lives, now have a disability?
Let's see. Oh, okay. I don't know the exact percentage of what the need is, but I do know that it has increased post-COVID in the number of calls that we're getting. So we do have data that speak to the fact of school anxiety and other trauma-based impacts. And even with the educational leaders that we talk to in special education directors, the number of referrals for special education evaluations has steadily increased over this period of time. And we found a way to impact some of that trauma-informed care was a program through the Department of Children's Services for 2 years that we administered, teaching school resource officers about how to interact with students and look for the impact, the intersection of disability and adverse childhood experiences, and respond to that in a positive manner along with parents and school resource teams as well. So there are some ways to address that as well.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Members? Wow, we did great. 129 in a minute to spare. Any further comments from the committee? If not, we are now back in session. Without objection, we are adjourned.